This video ranks every viable Town Hall 13 attack strategy. Let's start with the F tier. These are the worst of the worst strategies, all of which are really terrible in their own right and definitely getting outclassed, deserving the F tier. Next is the D tier. These are alright, but still not as good as some of the other armies in this tier list. Case in point, the Dragbat. Unfortunately, the Dragbat is still within the D tier. It's a strategy while it can work pretty dang well on single target infernos, it really doesn't work on anything else. It's also very base dependent, thus making it to the point where it can only work in select cases. So while it can be easy for newcomers, it's incredibly difficult for you to find the base to even use it against, and it really just lacks a lot of strength in comparison to something like the IC5 that does bat spell attacks even better. Another strategy in the D tier is unfortunately Super Dragons. The reason Super Dragons are down here in the D tier is mostly because while they are easy for newcomers like you and me, they're not strong. They're 100% not strong, not like their Town Hall 15 counterpart. They're extremely weak, and realistically, they're pretty base dependent. I don't know why you would use this over Electro Dragons, since Electro Dragons just have more reach than the Super Dragons. Next, we move to the C tier. These are some strategies that can work, but are very base specific. Case in point, the Skelly Donut Lalo. Now, the Skelly Donut Lalo is a fantastic strategy. There's really nothing bad I can say against it, but the only issue is, for casual players like me and you, this strategy is way too difficult. It takes a lot of time for you to master and can thus be incredibly difficult. But it's strong, it's really base dependent because you're looking for specific things, but this can get you 3 stars if you can master it. Another strategy that's fallen victim to C tier is unfortunately the Blizzard Hydra. Originally, I thought Blizzard Hydra was the best version of Hydra, but honestly, Blizzard Hydra is pretty weak, especially if there are giant bombs aimed to counteract your blizzard. Thus, it's a pretty weak strategy. However, it can work on the right base and thus remains within the C tier. It's pretty easy for newcomers, however, it just lacks that strength and that base flexibility that other strategies have. Next, we move to the B tier. These are good armies that can work relatively well depending on the base. Case in point, the Zap Lalo. The Zap Lalo is a really simple army with the lightning spells, the hero dive for the town hall, and then the lava loon for the rest of the base. It can be relatively difficult for newcomers. It's not what I would say insanely difficult, but still difficult enough that this lava loon can be quite challenging. So it is strong and it can work on a decent number of bases. It's not as good for a casual player like other different lava loons. Another strategy in the B tier is the Queen Charge Dragon Riders. The Queen Charge Dragon Riders can be a relatively difficult strategy if you have to go for a large area of the base. This does mean that it can be somewhat base dependent, and it is decently strong. However, the main issue is that for a beginner player or a casual player, it's not really the ideal strategy that I would use 9 times out of 10, because there's just better strategies. Next, we move into the A tier. These are consistent armies with just a couple flaws holding them back. Case in point, the Queen Charge Lalo. The Queen Charge Lalo is always a very, very good army. The only thing that holds it back is how beginner friendly it is to a casual player. And honestly, it's really not as easy. It is a very difficult strategy to master, but if you do, it can be incredibly strong and it can pretty much work on any base. The big thing about this is you have the Queen Charge that really can go in for a large area of the base, clearing out defenses, getting the enemy CC and the enemy heroes down, alongside then the Lava Loon to clear the rest of the base with the use of the haste spells, the Grand Warren ability, and the free spells to move through the entire base, which makes this a very strong army in the hands of a good player. Another pretty strong strategy in the A tier is Electro Dragons with a Super Minion Super Wizard clone blimp. E-Drags are an incredibly beginner-friendly strategy, and thanks to the Super Minion Super Wizard blimp, they have become even better. since you are using this blimp on either going in for the core town hall or an offset town hall with the Electro Dragons, it can net you a large amount of value to the point where your E-Drags can really safely get through the base with or without the Grand Warden. Being able to have your heroes to wrap up the rest, including a back-end Royal Champion, it can be incredibly strong. Keep in mind that this does have its limitations, so it's not nearly as strong as other strategies, but can work on a lot of bases depending on the variation that you try. Another pretty strong army is the Super Bowler Smash. Super Bowler Smash is another very popular yet really strong army, with one side having the Warden Walk, another side using the Flame Flinger. The Super Bowlers can easily smash themselves through the middle of the base, but it's really strong and it can work on a good number of bases, just not every single base is going to be catered to. Of course, another fantastic army that I'm starting to warm up to is the Super Archer Blimp Hydra. With a strategy like this, you need your Grand Warden alive. If not, this strategy can easily fail. However, using the Grand Warden with the Hydra, if you use the Super Archer Blimp during or before you actually send in your Hydra. This means that your heroes can often be used for funneling, thus making this a very beginner-friendly strategy for Town Hall 13. Not only that, but it is relatively strong, though it has its limitations. But you can use it against a wider variety of bases, considering it uses the Super Archer Blimp. Now we move into the S tier, the best of the best, starting with the Super Witch Smash. The Super Witch Smash is honestly one of the better smash attacks. It doesn't have the same limitations as Super Bowlers, and since you're doing roughly the same thing with a Warden Walk on one side to funnel, Flame Flinger on the other, or even subbing that out for lightning spells and using a Siege Barrack with the Barbarian King to funnel, your Super Witches can really dominate through the rest of the base. Whether you're going into the Town Hall or going into the Eagle Artillery, it gives you that same amount of value, pretty much to where you can easily jump across the whole base, raging up your Super Witches to keep them alive and dealing as much damage as possible, making this a very, very beginner-friendly strategy and is really strong and can work really well on a lot of bases. Another one of the best strategies is also the Super Hog Riders. Super Hogs are very good right now, and in my personal opinion, with the Queen Charge, it's really good. With the Queen Charge going in for the Town Hall and other key defenses, including enemy heroes, your Hog Riders and Super Hog Riders can really dominate through a good chunk of the base. Whether you want to use the Siege Barrack, Battle Blimp with Yetis inside, or even the use of a Battle Drill to work alongside them can often lead to a lot of 3-stars, thus making this a very strong army and can hit pretty much any base. Another incredibly powerful army is the use of the Queen Charge Hybrid. For the Queen Charge Hybrid, I don't really need to say much about it, outside of being pretty beginner friendly, since the Queen Charge is only looking for funneling to be created in the base so you can get pathing for the hybrid, alongside removing the enemy CC and getting as many defenses as possible. It can also really help you because the funneling on the other side with the Siege Barrack and the King and the hybrid working itself through the middle can often lead to a lot more 3-stars and thus is pretty easy to get comfortable with. And of course, it's also very strong and pretty much you can use on any base. If you're a fan of the Super Archer Blimp, you've also got the Super Barch. The Super Barch is something I don't need to elaborate too much, with a Super Archer Blimp to gut out the core, including the Town Hall, and using your heroes alongside the Apprentice Warden and Super Barbarians to absolutely clear the perimeter and clear out as many other defenses as you can, thus making it an incredibly good strategy for you to use in a lot of situations. It's incredibly strong and can work on a lot of bases. And of course, the top 2 best strategies is always going to be Super Archer Blimp Lalo and the Blizzard Lalo. And of course, the Super Archer Blimp and the Blizzard Lalos are 2 of the best strategies. With the Super Archer Blimp Lalo, you're typically looking to clear a large area of the base, which makes a hero dive or Sui hero very, very easy for you to clear through another chunk of the base, which then the follow-up Lalo becomes incredibly easy. Even though you don't have very many spells or the Grand Warden, it can be very, very strong. And the same thing is true with the Blizzard, where the Blizzard is going in for an area of the base, whether that is the CC and getting other defenses, or clearing out the Town Hall if there is a lot of heavy defenses that the heroes can't get into. Then you've got the Hero Dive, or the Sui hero, that can clear another larger area, and of course, clear out the Town Hall if the Blizzard goes in for something else. Other than that, the Lava Loon is very easy to follow up, and with spells and the Grand Warden, it becomes one of the best strategies to use at Town Hall 13.